So the map of the world you have in your head right now, it is, well, it's kind of a liar.
A complete liar, honestly.
Right. Like if you look at a globe, you see the continents, the islands, the oceans, and it feels like a finished drawing.
Yeah, the paint is dry. You assume you're standing on a completed planet.
Exactly. But if you focus on the Pacific, specifically the Hawaiian Islands, you aren't looking at a finished drawing at all. You are looking at a landscape that is quite literally exploding into existence as we speak.
It is actively arriving.
Yes. And today we are going on a deep dive into our stack of sources which explore Polynesian and Hawaiian oral traditions. So we're looking at ancient creation myths, the god Kanaloa, and how these stories map perfectly onto the very real, ongoing geological formation of the Earth.
And our mission here is really to see how ancient Pacific cosmology isn't just some static, bedtime story from the past.
Yeah.
It is a living, breathing record of a world that is still under construction.
It's so fascinating. But before we get into the details, you mentioned earlier that to even begin a conversation about something this vast, we have to acknowledge the threshold we're stepping over.
Right, absolutely. In these traditions, you don't just walk into a sacred space casually. You have to announce yourself.
Like knocking on a door.
Sort of, but deeper.
Mm-hmm.
There's a specific phrase that serves this purpose, which is Tulou Tagaloa.
Now, I bet you, the listener, have probably heard that phrase before. It's been everywhere in recent popular films and songs, right?
Definitely.
And it has this incredibly beautiful, resonant sound to it. But I was surprised to learn it wasn't designed to be just a cinematic moment.
Far from it. I mean, the concept of Tulou is intensely practical and deeply reverent. It operates as a small bow made of breath.
A bow made of breath. I love that.
Yeah, you say it to clear a respectful threshold before you enter a space that isn't fully yours. Imagine walking up to a subject so massive, so ancient, that speaking about it without warning would be, frankly, fundamentally disrespectful.
So it's not an apology?
Yeah. No, and it isn't quite a simple greeting either. It's an invocation. You are asking permission from the room before you start speaking about the foundation of the house.
Tagaloa. With respect, Tagaloa. I just love the idea of clearing the air before diving in. Okay, let's unpack this, because to understand the architecture of this specific house, we have to go back to the oldest part of the story.
We do. We have to go back to a time before the concept of time even existed, long before the word long before was a thing.
Right. And the oral tradition places us originally in what is called the expanse.
Exactly. The expanse. There's no sky. There is no sea, no day, no night, no up, no down.
Just a boundlessness with absolutely no edge.
Right, and Tagaloa is the sole intelligence awake inside this entirely unshaped everything.
Yeah.
And he is just kind of moving through it.
I always find this part so wonderfully pragmatic, because usually when we read about creator gods and other traditions, they're, sitting on these grand cosmic thrones.
Commanding the universe into existence with lightning bolts.
Yes. Booming voices and magic. But Tagaloa sounds less like a booming cosmic king and more like someone who has been treading water in the middle of the ocean for eternity and just desperately wants a place to rest his feet.
That plainness is entirely the point, actually. The old tellings don't dress the moment up in unnecessary grandeur. Tagaloa was simply tired.
He just wanted a floor.
Literally. He had been moving for so long through this undifferentiated nothingness that he wanted somewhere to stand. So he raises a single rock up out of the expanse. This is Manua, the first solid thing anywhere in the void.
And once he has that floor, the actual work of creation begins. And again, it's described not as a sudden magic trick where everything just pops into existence.
No, it's a grueling, long day's work.
Yeah, he starts splitting the rock. The first split makes the sea. The second split makes fresh water. The third frees the sky from the earth.
And the sky is so heavy that it immediately requires a god with forever raised arms just to hold it up.
Right, just standing there forever. And then he sets the sun, separates day from night, and sends an octopus down to found the sacred depths and multiply the stone. Like he is patiently cracking open stone piece by piece.
It's very mechanical. And after the immensity of space and the 9 heavens are firmly established, we arrive at the creation of life.
And this is where the tradition sharply diverges from what I think many people might expect.
Oh, absolutely. Life isn't sculpted from pristine clay here. It isn't breathed into perfect shape from stardust. It is coaxed out of rot.
Which is wild. A creeping vine is left to decompose on the bare rock, and worms rise out of its decay. I have to admit, when I first read this in the sources, I recoiled a bit.
It's a visceral image, for sure.
I mean, why worms? Why would Tagaloa take the grossest, least promising material imaginable, rotting vines and maggots, to build the most sacred lineages? Because Manoa becomes the geographical anchor for chiefly lines across the Pacific, right?
It does, yes.
So why build the foundation of human nobility out of such a literal mess?
What's fascinating here is that starting with the K actually highlights the absolute miracle of the spirit.
How do you mean?
Well, decomposition happens on its own, right? Rot is a natural mechanical process of the physical world breaking down, but rot alone cannot produce a heart.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, cannot produce thought or intentionality. Tagaloa takes these worms and gives them what the physical world couldn't possibly generate by itself. He infuses them with spirit, thought, and heart.
So it's saying the divine isn't found in the perfection of the material you start with.
Exactly. It's found in the infusion of life into something entirely broken down and unpromising.
It's a completely different framework for understanding worth. You don't have to start perfect to end up sacred.
Beautifully put. Now, this story of Tagaloa and that first rock didn't stay anchored to one island.
Right, because the people of the Pacific were, and remain, some of the most sophisticated navigators in human history.
Absolutely. As they wayfind across thousands of miles of open ocean, reading the stars and the swells, they bring this origin story with them.
And the name of that ancient source evolves like a river, reshaping stones as it travels.
The linguistic journey of the name literally traces the physical journey of the people. In Tonga, the name is Tagaloa, the ruler of the heavens.
Okay.
As the story moves to Tahiti, it becomes Tauroa, the god who breaks his own cosmic shell to build the world. Down at Aotearoa, for the Maori, he is Tangaroa, the fierce keeper of the sea.
And finally, as the wayfinders reached the far northern point of the Polynesian Triangle, navigating to the volcanic chain of Hawaii, the name settled into its northernmost shape, Kanaloa.
Kanaloa. In the Hawaiian tradition, Kanaloa is recognized as one of the four great Akua, the major gods, standing alongside Kane, Ku, and Lono.
But his specific oral record in Hawaii is a bit fragmented, isn't it? Thinner than the others.
It is, but everything we do know about him points straight down into the deep pelagic ocean. He is intimately tied to long-distance voyaging, to deep-water healing, and to that profound mix of ultimate abundance and extreme danger that you only find when you lose sight of land.
And this nature is reflected in his kinalau, right? His physical, bodily forms in the natural world.
Yes, he takes the form of the squid, the porpoise, the banana, a medicinal throat plant called ualoa, and crucially, the octopus.
We have to pause on the octopus for a second because the immensity of that connection is staggering.
It really is.
Thousands of miles away, in the ancient Samoan telling we just talked about, Tagaloa sent an octopus down into the void to found the depths.
Right.
Centuries later, across an ocean that covers a third of the globe, Kanaloa's form in Hawaii is still the octopus, a creature with no bones, perfectly adapted to squeezing into the darkest, deepest, most uncharted crevices of the sea.
The continuity is incredible.
The fact that human memory preserved that exact biological metaphor across that much time and water without writing a single word down is just mind-blowing.
It speaks to the rigorous scientific integrity of oral storytelling. These weren't casual campfire tales. They were highly protected and meticulously transmitted databases of ecological and navigational knowledge.
Right. But beyond his connection to the deep sea, the sources really highlight his friendship.
Yes, the most vivid aspect of Kanaloa in Hawaiian tradition is his partnership with Kan. They are almost always remembered together as travel companions.
They arrive together from a distant ancestral homeland, Kahiki, and move across the islands on foot, searching for water.
And their dynamic is just fantastic.
It's my favorite part of the entire pantheon. Whenever they hit a dry, desolate spot on an island, they don't fight about it. They simply drive their spear points deep into the bare rock, crack open a fresh underground spring, sit down, drink some oa together, and keep walking.
It's like the ultimate cosmic road trip. And that partnership maps the duality of human consciousness and the natural environment perfectly.
How so?
Look at how they function together. Kun represents the visible daytime order. He is fresh water, the northern sky, the waking, rational mind. He's the stabilizing energy you call upon when you are constructing a canoe on the dry sand of the shore.
And Kanaloa is the uncharted depth. He is the salt water, the southern sky, the subconscious mind.
Exactly. He is the energy you call upon when you push that canoe off the sand and sail it out past the breaking waves into the unknown.
They aren't engaged in a cosmic battle of good versus evil. They are the functional, necessary halves of a single world. I mean, you cannot have the visible surface of the ocean without the invisible depth supporting it.
Which is exactly what makes the later historical rewriting of Kanaloa so disruptive.
Yeah, let's get into that because things change dramatically.
Well, do. That indigenous balance, the understanding that the deep is just as essential as the surface, did not survive outside contact intact. When outside contact happened, it brought an entirely different theological framework.
A framework organized around a strict, rigid binary.
Right, a single ultimate good at war with a single ultimate evil. The nuance of two necessary halves was suddenly a huge problem for this new system.
So to force this imported theology onto the local population, the old stories were heavily pressured to change. Later, post-contact tellings began to recast Kanaloa as a rebel.
A villain, basically. A leader of rogue spirits who fought the ordering gods, lost a great celestial war, and was banished to the underworld. His name and identity were actively bent by translators and newly converted writers to fit the exact shape of a Christian devil.
I'm stuck on something here, though. If this new religious authority needed a villain to rule the underworld, didn't the Hawaiian pantheon already have one?
You're thinking of Milu.
Yes. I thought there was already a specific ruler of the realm of the dead, Milu. Why force Kanaloa, a voyaging and ocean god, into that highly specific, evil box?
This raises an important point about how translation functions as a tool of conceptual colonization. Milu was the ruler of the dead, yes, but he didn't fit the grand cosmic scale the new theology required for its ultimate adversary.
Ah, they needed a bigger name.
Exactly. They needed a heavyweight. They needed one of the major Akua to serve as the dark counterbalance to Khan, whom they had equated with God.
And Kanaloa was standing right there.
Right. Kanaloa was the god of the unseen depths. He represented the bottom of the ocean, a place of immense pressure and darkness that could not be seen from the safety of the shore. To a foreign morality that strictly equated hidden or dark with hell, Kanaloa was an easy target.
Wow. They literally took the concept of depth and criminalized it.
He became the victim of a structural shoehorning, just because he was submerged.
Think about how often we do this in our own lives, you know. We take the things inside ourselves that we can't easily see, the subconscious things we don't fully understand, our own personal depths, and we label them as dangerous or bad simply because they are hidden. We turn our own psychological depths into villains.
We fear the uncharted. But if we dig underneath both of these gods, underneath the changing names, the theological debates, and the translations, we hit a bedrock foundation. We find the Kumulipo.
Here's where it gets really interesting. The Kumulipo is the great genealogical chant of Hawaiian cosmology.
Composed in the 18th century, and it is over 2,000 lines long. Try to grasp the cognitive load required to maintain that.
2,000 lines, entirely by human voice.
Passed down generation after generation, functioning as this encyclopedic hard drive of biological and royal lineage. It was eventually written down and translated by Queen Liliuokalani.
And she did that while she was confined within her own palace during the overthrow of the Hawaiian kingdom, right?
That's right. And if you open this text expecting a standard, let there be light beginning, the Kumulipo refuses to give it to you.
It does not start with light. It starts in chika. It starts in an unimaginable, crushing darkness, night upon night upon night.
It frames the beginning of the universe as an immense gestation. Out of this black depth, the heat of the earth turns over. The very first foothold of physical matter in this dark vacuum is described as a gathering of slime.
The slime is the first foothold.
Yes, and from the union of Kumulipo, the male source of deep darkness, and Puli, the female source of the dark night, the chant counts forward mathematically through eras or wa.
And each era is a birth, moving up in complexity. It starts with the coral, right? The very simplest life anchoring itself in total darkness. From the coral comes the starfish, then the shellfish, then the fish.
It is building an ecosystem from the bottom up.
But it is still fundamentally existing in night. That continues until you hit this massive hinge point in the chant.
The transition into the 8th era.
Right. The 8th era is when Aro, or daylight, finally breaks, and the arrival of light is completely crowded. You get the first human man, Ki, and the first human woman, Loiloe, arriving into the world at the exact same moment as the god Kone and the octopus Kanaloa.
It's this incredible scene where the ancient age of the gods stitches directly into the living age of people.
It's breathtaking.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the mechanical architecture of this chant is astonishing. Contemporary Hawaiian language scholars and modern astronomers have pointed out that the Kumulipo's progression maps flawlessly onto modern astrophysics.
Wait, really? When you say it maps onto astrophysics, what exactly is the parallel? How does an 18th century chant recited from memory describe the physics of the early universe?
Just look at the sequence. Astrophysics tells us the universe began in a state of thermal chaos and featureless darkness.
Okay.
Over time, matter began to accrete in the vacuum. That gathering of slime in the chant beautifully mirrors the gathering of primordial molecular clouds.
Oh, wow.
Then the universe builds structural foundations, the coral of the cosmos, forming galaxies and stars. It moves from formless dark matter to structural order and finally to the ignition of light.
So the Kumulipo tracks this exact progression.
Exactly. Featureless darkness, the accretion of matter, increasing biological complexity, and then finally the explosion of daylight.
That is unbelievable. And the chant doesn't even stop at the invention of light. It transitions straight out of this cosmic myth and keeps counting, generation after biological generation, into a literal, historically datable family line.
Yes, it weaves the birth of the cosmos directly into the specific ancestry of King Kamehameha.
It is one unbroken thread stretching from the absolute darkness of the early universe down to a specific Tuesday afternoon in human history.
Which brings us directly back to the physical ground we are discussing today. The Kumulipo isn't just poetry or metaphor, it's geology.
Right. Because Hawaii is the youngest major landmass sitting in the oldest ocean on Earth.
And the crucial thing to understand is that it is not finished arriving.
This is the detail from the sources that truly blows my mind. Mount Kilauea on the Big Island of Hawaii has been erupting in massive pulses since the end of 2024. As we speak, fountains of liquid rock are rising for hours, going quiet and rising again on their own internal schedules.
It's the constant cycle.
That lava is flowing down the slopes, hitting the cold water of the Pacific Ocean, exploding into steam, and instantly hardening into brand new black sand shores. Where just yesterday there was only open, deep water, today there is solid earth.
You are watching the real-time Kumulipo. The chant insists that the world climbed out of darkness into coral, into land, and into light. If you stand on the volcanic shores of the Big Island today, you are watching the island visibly doing exactly that.
It is literally pulling itself up out of the ocean floor.
Yes.
So what does this all mean? It means that when we read these ancient oral traditions, we aren't reading an origin story written in the past tense.
Not at all.
Creation isn't a chapter in a history book that got permanently closed a billion years ago. The cracking open of rock into water into sky, that long day's grueling work that Tagaloa started in the expanse, is an ongoing daily event. Creation is an active verb.
Understanding this requires us to completely reframe how we view our environment. The world isn't a finished stage that we are just walking around on, passively observing.
Right, we are actively participating in a space that is still deciding its own shape.
The ancient intelligence wasn't primitive. It was deeply, scientifically observant of geological processes that are still unfolding right in front of us.
It's an incredible journey we've mapped out today. We started with a tired god who just wanted a place to rest his feet in a boundless expanse.
We tracked a name that voyaged across thousands of miles of open ocean, preserved by the image of an octopus.
We unpacked an ancient chant that intuitively mirrors the accretion of matter in modern astrophysics, all the way down to liquid lava hitting the ocean right now, today.
It proves that the deepest truths about our world often require us to look past the surface and respect the hidden depths.
And as we wrap up, I want to leave you, the listener, with something to mull over. Think back to the very beginning of our deep dive. Think back to Tagaloa coaxing the very first spirit, thought, and heart out of rotting, decomposing vines on a bare rock.
Such a powerful image.
In our modern lives, we are constantly striving for the pristine. We want to build our foundations, our careers, and our relationships out of shiny, flawless, perfect materials. But the oldest intelligence in the Pacific tells us that the most profound life is actually built from the mess.
It's built from the decay.
Exactly. It is coaxed out of the parts of life that are actively breaking down. So ask yourself, what compost in your own life, the failures, the endings, the things falling apart, is actually the raw material for your next era of creation?
That's a powerful question. Sometimes you have to let the old structures completely break down before you can gather the material to build the next era.
The mess is the starting line. So the next time you feel like you were just treading water in the expanse, exhausted and waiting, remember, you might just be getting ready to raise a new rock.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep questioning the map, and we will see you next time.